Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the virtual plant clinic with Dr. Bill. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension here in Hernando County, and today I have a couple of guests with me. I have my regular co-host Lily Browning, who's with Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape. Say good morning, Lily.
Good morning, Lily.
Okay, that was perfect. And we have a special guest today, Tia Silvasi with University of Florida Extension in Orange County. Tia, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show today, Bill.
Oh, you are very welcome. We try to have a different guest on here every week because I figure people are going to get tired of just asking me all their questions and just listening to my voice. So Tia, real quick, what do you do in Orange County? What do you do with Orange County Extension?
Yeah, so Orange County is a really big county in terms of number of population. We have 1.3 million people. I'm a Florida-friendly landscaping agent. So my job is to teach people how to do their landscapes and gardens in the most environmentally sustainable way. So I have like tips for people on how to do fertilizer, how to do composting. Did you hear that? Sorry.
That's okay. I'm surprised it wasn't me.
Fertilizer, composting, recycle your yard tips, like very basic things, but all added up together, they can result in big changes to the environment. Like I teach a rain barrel class and you collect 50 gallons of water in your rain barrel. Well, 50 gallons, that's not a lot, but take that times 1.3 million people.
Yeah,
that's a lot of water that we're conserving and preventing stormwater runoff. So one of my areas of expertise is Florida-friendly edible landscaping. And so I have a background in agriculture, like growing crops. My grandma had a farm up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I knew I wanted to be a farmer ever since I was a kid. But being a farmer is a lot of work. You don't get vacation, holidays, paid days off. So that's how I became an extension.
There you go, Tia.
Oh yeah, Pittsburgh. Yeah, but I still practice, edible landscaping, permaculture, agroecology, sustainable agriculture, whatever you want to call it, in my yard. And I, teach those people those principles that are right in line with the Florida friendly, using perennial plants, using shrubs and trees that can just live on their own, besides you having to go and take care of them all the time. The right plant in the right place, that's number one. And I have bananas in my yard that just make bananas. Even when I lived in Hawaii, when I was getting my master's degree, every time I would come home, there's a new bunch of bananas I could just harvest with like zero inputs, So I enjoy teaching people about that, and I'll be happy to answer anybody's questions today about Florida friendly or edible landscaping, vegetable crops.
A lot of our bananas freeze, like almost all of them, before they ever make bananas. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
We didn't even get a freeze last year in Orlando.
I don't think we, Bill, have really one, but the norm is people get their banana trees to a certain point and they leaf out and then they freeze. And then they leaf out and then they freeze. So
yeah, and if you have large healthy bananas, number one, they're going to take cold weather a little bit better. Number two, if you have them planted in an area of your yard like tucked up against the house, by your front door, out back by the pool, it's going to stay a couple degrees warmer. And if we get just a little bit of a frost, if you can keep your bananas 1, 2, 3 degrees warmer, that's usually enough that they're not going to get a lot of damage. They always get damaged a little bit. You're going to lose a few leaves. A couple leaves are going to get frostbitten or scorched, but you rarely see them completely killed all the way to the ground. And in the spring, if you take good care of them, they come right back, and you can get them to grow like weeds if you do it correctly.
What I've seen is, they grow, they come back, but they don't often get to fruit bearing unless, like you said, they're in a microclimate. The only person I knew who had one and they made these little bananas.
Yeah, apple bananas.
Yeah, they lived on a lake, so.
Okay, so they might have had that microclimate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mine are actually under a big like oak tree, not like a dense shade, but kind of like a spindly forest oak tree, and they do great under there.
That helps a lot. Also, underneath the trees, it creates a little bit of a canopy and keeps things a little bit warmer on those cold nights.
Orlando is the same zone as us, right? 9A?
No, we're 9B.
Ah, see, that's that little bit of difference.
Yeah,
right?
a little bit of 9A.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to zone 10. You know, I
Yeah.
planted some more tropical stuff in my yard, and so far it's doing good. But we can still get that freeze.
Right. But that's what I tell people too. If you want to experiment and know that you're experimenting,
Yeah.
and it could go wrong, I would experiment down with the more tropicals, the 90s or whatever, rather than trying anything that needs chilling hours or, like that. Because it is getting warmer for whatever reasons, and I'm not getting into any of that, but, I've lived here 42 years. We know it's getting warmer, so...
Well, I'd love to experiment with mangoes, dragon fruit. I know dragon fruit is becoming very popular.
Yeah, I can grow that in my yard.
Oh, if you get a bunch, you're gonna have to share them with me now.
I just got one this year. I have
Well,
a
that's a start.
magnolia tree.
Hey, we even have some questions about bananas coming in. So this is one about how do you get them to fruit bearing, been sitting there for several years?
It sounds like they need some help, Give them a little compost, fertilizer, make sure they're watered. Bananas really love like rich soil, like the lake fronts or mucky, a low spot. Some people make their compost pile right next to their bananas, and that helps them.
That's interesting.
I know there's a plan where you grow them in a circle. You make a big pile of compost, or you compost in place in a spot, and you plant the bananas in a ring around it. So the bananas are always growing at the very edge of a big compost pile, basically.
Yeah.
And they love lots of water, lots of fertilizer. We don't recommend throwing on that much good care to most plants, but bananas are different. They love bananas and papayas. Just give them lots of water, lots of fertilizer, get them to grow like crazy. And they need a good 10 months of growing and warm weather to fruit.
9 or 10 months. So if you just try to push them along, like what Bill was talking about, the banana circle, that you actually dig at kind of a low spot. So it's like a swale in the middle, and that will help hold the water too. And then you can plant the bananas on the berm, around them.
Yeah.
In the rain garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a master gardener that does that, and she does very, very well with bananas, papayas. She has a lot of tropical fruit, does well with them.
The other thing about bananas is you want to thin them so that you don't have more than 3 per cluster. So if you have 10 little ones, it would be better to thin some of those out and plant them so you just have 3. You'll have the one that's going to be fruiting, and then maybe like an adolescent one, and then a baby little pup. So if you have more than 3 in a cluster, consider thinning them out and transplanting them to other places of your yard so they're not competing too much.
Well, what do you know about the rumor that I have heard going around that the commercial bananas, the ones that we're used to eating from the store, that they're going to be going extinct?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well then it must not. I don't know. I've heard a few
The
people
ones
saying
that you get from the standard bananas that you get from the grocery store are all Cavendish bananas.
that. Okay.
And so it's all one variety, and they're all cloned from each other. So there's no genetic variation with them. They're all genetically pretty much the same. And there is a disease that is not a problem yet in South and Central America, but could come there because, people do a fantastic job of moving plant diseases and invasive insects and everything else around the world between international commerce and shipping and everything else. If it comes to Central America, it could potentially wipe out Cavendish bananas, but I'm sure that there's got to be like about 100 different varieties of bananas, only one of which we normally grow commercially, but they would probably have to pick another variety and start planting it on a mass scale. Because I took a trip to Costa Rica and I saw some of where they grow bananas, and it's just endless jungle filled with bananas, and they're picking them, and they put them on this little trolley car kind of to go to the packing house. It's pretty amazing. But if a disease got loose there that we couldn't control and started wiping them out, it would cause a lot of problems in the banana market. So the smartest thing to do is start growing your own bananas. Try different varieties. There are some different varieties that do well in slightly colder areas like we are in Central Florida. You could get a frost or freeze.
Yeah.
So you don't want to pick a really tropical variety. It's probably going to die. But there are some cold tolerant varieties you could try and experiment and grow your own bananas. So if they get wiped out, you still have bananas.
I'm sure they're working on other varieties, but the moral of that story is the same thing. You would think humans would begin to learn at some point about the dangers of a monoculture.
Yep. Called putting all your eggs or all your bananas in one big basket. You don't want to do that.
That's great advice.
So, we got another question here from Barbie. Their bananas are under oak trees too, but we can't get them to grow and produce fruit. So Tia, how do you get fruit from your under the tree bananas?
Yeah, well, again, bananas need a lot of food, a lot of water, and they do need some sunlight. So it depends how shady is that oak canopy, and then what are you feeding them? Are they in some moist, rich soil that has lots of mulch or compost, or are they kind of in some more poor soil? So just look at those basic factors: sunlight and water and nutrients.
And I assume just like mulch, all that compost you're talking about, you don't want to put it right up against the trunk, just in case people want to try that. You don't want to pack it up against the trunk.
Right. Bananas, they're kind of resilient because they grow from the underground forms, but definitely they're not a true tree like an oak tree, but you don't want that stuff up against the oak tree. And if they're just too far under the canopy, if it's too dense and shady, just transplant them a little further out into the open.
Okay, we're starting to get questions about all kinds of different things here. Stephanie's wondering, should we amend our garden soil with peat and or manure? Is it possible to grow vegetables in our sandy soil without amending?
Okay, well, the short answer
is... We'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, there's some vegetables you can grow without amending, pioneer plants that are the first ones to come up that don't need a lot of extra fertilizer. Beans, they can fix their own nitrogen in symbiotic relationship with the microbes. Also some more tropical crops or like amaranth, are really hardy. But a lot of the European vegetables like the cabbage, the kale, the broccoli, they do like better soil fertility. So it is good to amend with peat. Maybe that just adds organic matter, but it doesn't add a lot of nutrients, whereas manure has both the organic matter and the nutrients. So I always add some kind of compost like black cow or grow your own compost or horse manure, cow manure, whatever you can find, before planting every year, like in the fall. Right now it's like September 15th. So add a couple bags, mix it in, and then plant your plants, your transplants or your seeds.
Yeah, that's what I say also. Black cow manure works well. You can get bags of mushroom compost. That works well too. You may want to stay away from the really inexpensive bags of topsoil. A lot of times that's not, if it feels really heavy or wet, or you open the bag and it smells kind of bad, it's not going to be necessarily the best amendment for your garden. But what we recommend to people, and the best thing that you do, is start making your own compost. Because if you do that, and you make a lot of compost year after year, you keep adding it to the soil, over time, you're going to build that soil up, and you can build a beautiful soil here in Florida with the sand that has really good drainage, but with a lot of organic matter, which helps to hold the water and provide nutrients also. And you can build beautiful soil here in Florida. Most of us don't have it naturally.
Right.
You know,
Over
you bought
time.
a house, you dig in the backyard. It's not beautiful soil right now, but you can build it.
And Bill, what are you going to say about the fresh manure with the vegetable garden?
Fresh manure.
Yeah, using any kind of fresh animal manure for anything you're growing that's an edible plant, you can have a lot of problems with that from a food safety standpoint. Animal manures can contain things like salmonella, pathogenic forms of E. coli. I'm sure everybody knows and you hear on the news about food safety outbreaks and recalls with that. You don't want to create those kind of problems in your own backyard. Animal manure can be used safely, but you need to know what you're doing. So if you contact our office, we are more than happy to send you some specific information on that for people who have animals. Maybe you have cows, you have horses, you have pigs or chickens. You have to handle it correctly to be able to use it safely. So here, let me go ahead and show this. This is our phone number. So if you contact our office, there's a 98% chance that the person answering it will be Teresa. And Teresa is more than happy to pull up some information for you. We could put you in touch with our small farms and pasture agent, Laura Bennett. And as a matter of fact, I need to have Laura on here again as a special guest because she knows all about animals and manure and things like that.
Yeah.
And she can help. She can tell you what to do to use it safely, because you don't want to be grabbing raw animal manure and throwing it in your vegetable garden. That can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, you basically need to compost it first. So put it in your compost pile first, run it through, the 3-month composting process. When that's cured, then it's generally safe to use.
The line I have heard is when it no longer smells like what it is, it's fairly safe to use.
Yeah, and if you are organic certified, they have special regulations about the manure, and it has to reach a certain temperature for a certain duration of time to make sure those pathogens are killed.
Yeah, we can share that information with you if you contact us. There is a whole procedure for certified organic farmers if they want to use manure, how long they have to compost it for, what temperature it gets to, how many days it sits. Then they turn it and it sits for a certain number of days. So it's a whole step-by-step process. And if you follow that, you could be reasonably sure that you're going to be safe.
Yeah, but all that compost and manure and stuff is good for your garden. Usually, rabbit manure, chicken manure, cow manure, horse manure. You just don't want to use any kind of like carnivorous animal, like dog, cat. You don't want to put that in your compost pile. Throw that in the trash.
Too many pathogens there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and please, nobody ask us questions about using human manure in a garden. We really don't want to go there. So, so we got another question here, and this is a little bit different. In North Central Florida, Zone 8B, what can I do to make my staghorn fern thrive? It's growing in a hanging basket, and we bring it in for winter. So that's from Jacqueline Williamson up in North Central Florida, a little bit north of us because it's up there in Zone 8B.
Right, 8B.
That could be Ocala, somewhere north of there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never seen them not thrive, really.
Yeah, I wonder what's wrong with it. Mine is just kind of in the shade, and I really do nothing to it.
Yeah.
No fertilizer. It's outdoors, so it gets the natural rainfall and humidity. So they like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have been told they really like potassium.
I was going to say, speaking of bananas.
Sometimes take a banana peel and stuff it in the basket, which doesn't hurt. That's, I'm not sure. I can't say how huge of a benefit it's going to have, but it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, I've heard of that trick before. I don't know if it's science-based or anything, but banana peels do contain potassium, and
Mm-hmm.
if staghorn ferns like them. But I kind of treat staghorns like I do my orchids, part shade, high humidity. They're air plants, so hang them up if you can. And sometimes the staghorns, they get a little old and maybe too big or too dense. And in that case, you can separate them and make a couple baby plants out of them.
Yeah, and they can get over the years very large and very heavy.
Too big to bring in. Yeah.
I know that our master gardeners had one donated to them, and they had to go out there and take it down out of the tree and move it and separate it and turn it into many smaller plants, and they had to do it with a chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
So they get pretty large and pretty tough. But I think every piece they cut it up into survived and thrived. So it's generally a very hardy plant. You may want to think about fertilizing it very lightly with a liquid fertilizer. That may help because it is an air plant. And if it's not getting enough nutrients kind of washing off the oak tree and off the oak tree leaves, you may want to give it a little bit of fertilizer. But that should do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, make sure it has plenty of kind of material to grow onto that peat or whatever, the coconut coir.
Okay, we have a question here from Facebook user. What might cause plant growth stunting? I've had stunting in pots with potting soil and also in my garden. Could it be overwatering? Or does city water, Lily, we'll point this one to you, impact plants negatively?
I have not studied that. I haven't. Mostly, we just send a water quality report out to people who ask about it, for their own drinkability. I have not seen any cases where and Hernando County water just contains some chlorine to make it safe to drink. We don't put fluoride in it. Some other cities might do that. But I'm not sure. I mean, have you done any studies on that, Tia?
No, but my plants are also stunted right now. And it seems to be from too much rainfall is leaching all the nutrients out. And the other thing is that if they're in pots, they might just not have enough, soil volume to make the plant really thrive. So maybe bumping it up to a larger pot and adding some, amendments, some organic amendments or some fertilizers to help it along. And if you can protect it from the rain a little bit to prevent that nutrient leaching, that could be a good thing too.
Also, you reminded me, if he's speaking of his municipal water, you don't really, if you're anywhere around here, you don't need to be adding additional water. The rain is giving us enough.
Yeah, more
at this time.
Yeah, when we get a lot of rain, don't go out there and water your plants on top of the rain, because every summer we see problems, and this is mostly with hedge bushes and some other plants out in people's yards. If they over mulch them and they still run their sprinkler once a week with all the rain we're getting, the plants will be sitting in really, really wet soil all the time, and we start to see a lot of root rot diseases. And you might have a hedge with a whole bunch of viburnums, and all of a sudden, boom, one of them dies overnight. A lot of times it's a root rot problem. So the rainfall can be a blessing, but it could be a curse too when we get a little bit too much for too long.
Yeah, right here in Orlando, we got 2.5 inches of rain, the last 2 days, and everything is just saturated right now. And I have some grow boxes, and even those plants, the water reservoir underneath it looks like iced tea because all the nutrients got leached out into that water, and they're not really uptaking that much water right now. So just give them a little refresher. Let them dry out.
And if you're, concerned about the municipal water in your plants, a rain barrel is a great idea.
And Lily does have rain barrel classes, don't
I
you, Lily?
do. I do. Yes, I do. And
Okay.
now we've started. September 25th will be our second virtual rain barrel workshop. And if you're wondering how that works, how I give you a rain barrel through the computer, you take the class in the evening, this time on the 25th. Bill will be there because it's a mixture of a compost workshop as well. And the next day, Saturday, you come to the Master Gardener Nursery and I give you your rain barrel and your compost bin if you're getting one of those. So that's how we've been working that out, and it's been going great.
Sounds like a deal.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. I'll put my email in the comments. Is that where I should put it? Bill, will it be seen there?
Yeah, well, go ahead and we'll see if it pops up.
I don't see where I can write.
Yeah, I don't think we can write comments. You have to put in the private chat to
Oh,
Bill.
no, you can't on here. But here, I can fix that. So it
You
is.
know my email.
Yeah, and for the people who live in Orange County, we do have a rain barrel program through Orange County Utilities, not OUC, but OCU. So if you're a paying utility customer for Orange County Utilities, we have a rain barrel class coming up. You can sign up and get a free rain barrel.
Shh, don't tell them that. In Hernando County,
Right.
if you are a customer, I mean, anybody can take the rain barrel workshop and they're $50. Thank you.
Is that correct?
That is, you got it. See,
Okay.
You have a really long email.
there's
The dot something at the end?
yeah, .us.
.us.
Oh, we work on that then.
Yeah. Anyway, that's how, if you email me and you're in or around Hernando County and want to join the workshop, email me and I'll send you all of the information. The rain barrels are $50. If you are a customer of Hernando County Utilities and haven't gotten a rain barrel before, you will get a $25 rebate on your water bill for getting a rain barrel.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we will be offering compost bins. They are free. They're from the solid waste department. They are free only for Hernando County residents and one per household.
Okay.
Email me and I'll send everybody all of that information and get you on my list so I can send you the Zoom link to join us the evening of the 25th.
That's wonderful. Yeah, our other utility company, the OUC, they don't offer free rain barrels, but they do offer the incentive program where you can take, the 50 gallon times whatever amount off of your water bill.
Oh, wow. No, we just have the rebate. So basically you get, and it's a, pre-made rain barrel. You have to do very little to put it together, made from recycled material, but to be a rain barrel. And that's our cost. That's our bulk cost. We're not making a profit on it at all. And we give that one-time $25 rebate on it. So for our customers. For everyone else, it's just $50, and that includes me because I live up here in Weld territory, so I had to pay $50 for mine without a rebate. But it is very, very useful.
Yeah, everybody should have a rain barrel and a compost pile.
Mm-hmm. And one of those urban legends that also goes around that I deal with from time to time is rain barrels are not illegal. That's one of the things that goes around. Possibly if you're in a deed restricted community, they may have specific rules. Some, I don't think any are in Hernando County, but I'm not sure. I don't want to be quoted on that. Some may say you can't have them at all. Most of them are going to say you need to have it in the backyard or somewhere hidden.
Right, like the side yard or the backyard, if you have an HOA requirement for that.
Right. But as far as they're illegal because you're stealing water, maybe some municipalities, I can't speak for all of them, but certainly Hernando County encourages it. We get enough rain to share. There was an issue 150 years ago out west with water rights and things. It's not an issue in our modern society.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we don't got to worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Let's go to one more question here, and then we have a couple of pictures that Tia kind of brought with her today with some questions. So let's see. Barbie asks, how often do you recommend watering a vegetable garden when using a drip irrigation system? Obviously not watering at all right now with all the rain, but just curious. So I know that with a normal vegetable garden during a time of year where it's not raining every day, maybe raining on a regular basis or not very much at all, a lot of vegetables are going to have to be watered pretty much once a day, depending on your soil. If it dries out pretty quickly and the vegetables are still fairly small.
Yeah, especially to get them started. It's good to water them once a day. But after they get established, a couple of weeks later, you could back it down to maybe twice a week.
Yeah, if you have, fully grown tomato and pepper and watermelon and squash plants, just keep an eye on the plants and see when they start to look dry, when they start to wilt a little bit. If you have very long, very sunny days and it's not very cloudy and no rain, they're going to dry out faster. Mulch helps a lot in a vegetable garden. And you don't want to use something like wood chips because they're going to be really tough on the little vegetable plant stems. But mulching with grass clippings, pine needles, compost, ground up leaves that have fallen off your trees, those are all really good mulches for a vegetable garden because it's going to break down.
Right.
And you're adding more organic matter and compost to the soil, and it's going to help to hold the moisture in and keep it from evaporating off the surface of the soil quite so quick.
Yeah, more of a soft mulch. I have these grasses in my yard, and I give them a little haircut, and I kind of use that as like hay.
Oh, yeah.
I call it my hay factory, like grass, cord grass, vetiver grass.
Yeah, and even pine needles, if you have pine trees, pine needles are fine. They're not going to cause a big problem with your soil's pH.
No.
If you use huge amounts for 100 years, you might throw the pH off a little bit, but in the short term, it doesn't have any major effect.
Now, remember the master gardener you had for like a year? Then he moved to North Carolina. I went to his house to certify his yard as Florida friendly, and he had a very interesting yard. He lived in a very shady community, and I mean that literally, not figuratively. It was a nice mobile home community, and he had kind of a small yard. But because it was so shady, he had given up on turf, and his entire yard was probably 8 inches of oak leaves, because that's what he had readily available, and lots of plant life around it too. It was Florida friendly. There was nothing not Florida friendly about it. And I mean, he had those leaves so trained, they didn't dare to move. They were like perfect.
Yeah.
There. And so when you certify a yard, you have to do a soil test. His soil pH came back 6.5, just like anybody else's out there.
Yeah.
So that just tells you, even though he had all those oak leaves there, it would take, like Bill said, 150 years probably to change the pH of the soil. So
yeah, if we go to a pine tree forest and test the soil, and that forest has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, soil is going to be pretty acidic, but it takes a long time for that to happen. So don't be afraid to use oak leaves or pine needles in the garden. They're organic. They are going to break down pretty quickly and add to the soil, and they're not going to hurt your pH or hurt anything else. So here, we got a couple pictures here. Let me go ahead and try to screen share and see how that works. Oh, can you guys all see this?
Yep, looks perfect.
Well, we see the little slides on the side too.
Yeah.
If you want to make it the presenter view.
Sure, if I do that, I won't be able to see it, so you guys are going to have to tell me if it works. Okay.
That works.
That works?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, Tia sent me this picture, and it's a little blurry, but this is a really good example. This is from Andrew, and he wants to know what this weed is.
Yeah, well, I have that weed in my yard too.
It's pretty.
I'm honestly not really positive what it is.
You don't know what it is?
Not really familiar.
It's a vegetable.
The picture is a little blurry. So I'm not sure if it's just blurry because, you know, I put it, it's now PowerPoint and showing up on the screen, or if the initial picture was a little blurry, but it's a little difficult for me to see. At the University of Florida, we have a free service through the university where we can send a picture of a plant, a mushroom, an insect, an animal off to them, and the researchers will identify it. And they get really upset when we send them just one picture or a blurry picture, or it's not a very good picture. So they always suggest that we take good, clear pictures, an up close one, and then a far away one. And that's especially important with a tree or a bush to get an idea of exactly how big the plant is in real life. And if we send really good pictures like that to them, they're able to identify it because they're better at that than I am.
This is a sweet potato plant.
Oh, okay.
The person thought it was a weed, and often we don't see them flowering like this. The sweet potato is in the morning glory family, and so you can see those purple flowers that are kind of closed, and maybe in the morning they'll open like a morning glory flower. But sweet potatoes are so prolific that they will kind of just crawl around your yard. And I have some growing in a patch of saw palmettos that have been there a couple years. And because of our mild winters, they just never die out. And sometimes they can even be a little bit of a problem. I tried to compost them in our compost pile, and I eventually had to throw them in the yard waste trash because I couldn't get them to die.
Yeah, I've grown sweet potatoes before, and if you leave just a few little bits behind, they'll survive the winter and come back the next year. So you can basically start a permanent sweet potato patch if you want. We don't recommend growing the same thing in the same spot for year after year after year. You're going to start to have pest and disease problems. But if you leave just a little bit of the roots behind, they'll come back the next spring, and you'll get a whole second crop of sweet potatoes.
Yeah, so that's the weed. It's a sweet potato. So if it's growing in the wrong place, it's a weed.
Yeah, and I know that they can flower. I don't think I've ever seen them flower before, though. I know when I grew them, oh my gosh, I had a fairly small patch, and I got probably 2 bushels of sweet potatoes out of them. And they were great. So here's another picture. What's wrong with my watermelon? And is this out of your garden, Tia?
No, this was from Anna on our Victory Garden site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is just classic cracked fruit. It happens in all kinds of fruits, tomatoes, radishes, even cabbages sometimes, watermelons here.
Is it too much water?
Too much water.
And
sometimes if we have a really rainy summer, the plant will try to take, the more water you give it, the plant tries to take up even more water. And then too much water goes to the watermelon, or it happens very commonly with tomatoes also, and also citrus. And it will take up all that water, and it can't grow the outside of the fruit fast enough to keep up with the water, and it will split.
Yep, split fruit. So I told her, eat it. That's
it looks pretty good. Yeah.
It does look good. Yeah, yeah.
It looks ripe enough to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, just cut that bad part off and enjoy the rest. Yeah. So now here's some pictures of Tia. Is this your watermelon?
This is my watermelon, and it has the baby tips of the leaves are kind of like this mottled yellowish, but the older leaves are green. So it's the baby leaves that are this yellow.
Well, from the pattern of the yellowing, and we got a couple different pictures here, just 2. So there's 2 different things that I think it could be. Number one, because you said it's on the new growth and not so much on the older leaves, it might be just a nitrogen deficiency, or maybe magnesium, maybe just needs some fertilizer, because of all the rain we've had this summer, it has washed a lot of the fertilizer out of the soil. But watermelons and squash and cantaloupes and cucumbers get a whole bunch of different viruses here in Florida. And a lot of them, they're most commonly spread by whiteflies. Those are really tiny little insects that'll attack a lot of vegetables. And you can tell if you have them, if you tap the leaves, and tiny little white insects start flying up from underneath the leaves, you have whiteflies. So this could be a plant virus. I know that's a problem that commercial growers have with any kind of cucurbits, and that's watermelons, cantaloupes, summer squash, winter squash. So
Yeah,
the kind of mosaic yellow pattern may be a virus.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I wasn't able to identify it, and it's kind of growing in some of compost we got from the county dump. So it might not have too much nutrients in it. It might be a little off balance somehow. There were no whiteflies when I checked it, but it could have had the insect vector disease at an earlier point.
Probably just nutrients, because I have some peppers out growing in my rock garden out by the pool, and they were looking really, really yellow. And I was not so much getting peppers off of them right now in the heat of summer. I wanted to keep them alive and have them grow a little bit more. So once we start to get into fall, hopefully they're going to flower. I'm going to get a lot of peppers off of them. And I fertilized them the other day, and oh my gosh, in like 2 days, they turned green. And they look 1,000% better than they did. And it was just fertilizer.
Yeah, a lot of these fruits and vegetables, they need more than just NPK. They might need some of the micronutrients as well. So the special, little bags of like organic, that usually has the micronutrients for the vegetable fertilizer.
So we have one other question here, and that's kind of an unusual picture.
Yeah, it is.
So Jacob asks you, what is this white ring? And I know what I think it is. I could tell from looking at the surface of the soil, he has a lot of compost and a lot of organic matter there. And that's great. That's great for the plant. But what can happen is on the surface, obviously you have bacteria continuing to break down the organic matter. You have fungi breaking it down also. What that probably is a fungus that's just growing on the surface of the compost. And I can almost guarantee you it's not hurting the plant. It's just that organic matter sitting there is just being broken down by a fungus, which is exactly what you want to happen.
Yeah, you can kind of see like the little, mycelium or the fungal hairs in there if you look closely. It does look like a fungus to me. The other thing that came to my mind is if he used some type of fertilizer, like a synthetic fertilizer that was high in salt. Sometimes you see that salt buildup on the surface of the soil.
I love that too, yeah, like what happens with houseplants and things, because it's containerized there.
Yeah, so you don't usually see it in a ring pattern like that. He may have top dressed the pepper and sprinkled fertilizer in a circle around the plant, which is fine. You want to fertilize in an area like above the roots, because if you throw fertilizer all over the place, now you're fertilizing your weeds also. We don't want to help them out any. But yeah, it's a little unusual to see it in a nice circle like that.
Beautiful soil.
Yeah, that is beautiful soil for a vegetable garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a little fairy ring and we'll start to see mushrooms.
Could be, starting
here.
The fruiting bodies there.
Exactly. So
I have mushrooms popping up everywhere where I've never had them before in my yard just because of all the rain. And I'm in a very dry, sandy area. But all this rain is bringing up new things.
Yeah, mushrooms everywhere.
Yeah, we get a lot of mushroom questions also. But we got a question here from Anant Johnny. Do you know if they have rain barrel or compost program in Pasco County? And if so, who can I reach out to? And Lily, you probably have an answer to that.
I'm not sure if I remember his email off the top of my head, but you want to reach out to probably Jim Moll, Moll, and if you look up the Pasco County Extension Office, well, here, let me see if I can find his email for you. They don't hold them as often as I do, but they do hold them, and you do have to be a Pasco County resident to attend theirs. Okay, here's the email. You want to write it, Bill? It's jmoll at Pasco County, spelled out, FL.net.
Boy, you people have long email addresses. I have a nice short one. Does that look correct?
Yes, that's who you would contact if you're in Pasco County and you want to participate in a rain barrel workshop. I think they hold theirs more or less quarterly, and I'm not sure what they're doing as far as virtual programming or anything, but he would be the one to contact to find out about that. So
Yeah, if you live in any other county, if you just contact your county extension office, they can tell you what's going on there, because obviously every county is different and we all have different programs. Extension partners with, water department and county governments sometimes to be able to offer composting programs with the compost bin or rain barrel classes. And like I said, every county is different.
Right.
So you probably want to contact your own county's extension office to find out what they have to offer locally.
And if he's not leading them anymore because he moved to a little bit of a different position, he will know who is and get the, send you to that person.
Exactly. He can help you out.
Great. Thanks for sharing that info.
So let's see what else we have on here. Here we have kind of a unusual question. From Facebook user, once again, any pointers on dealing with cedar rust other than with constant fungicide treatments? So I believe this is referring to, what is it, apple cedar rust, which alternates between cedar trees and apple trees or their close relatives. So even though we don't grow apples a whole lot in Florida, we still do have this rust fungus disease that can damage your cedar trees. Generally, the best way to protect your plants is with a fungicide. If, once again, you contact our office, and let me pull that up there. If you contact Teresa at our office, and here's the phone number, she could pull up some University of Florida information on that, or if you look online under University of Florida apple cedar rust, you're going to find a fact sheet on that disease and all the recommendations. And University of Florida does make recommendations for chemical controls, non-chemical controls, ways to avoid the disease. So we try to share a wide variety of different controls with people so that you're using something that you're comfortable with using to solve that problem.
I solved that problem by taking up that cedar tree and getting rid of it before it spread to my other cedar trees. Remember I showed you the picture, Bill? It was like the entire,
you did.
The entire top half was brown. And I'm like, well, I better get this out of here because I have a lot of huge cedar trees, and that was just a very small one. So my solution was mechanical. See ya, bye, you're gone.
I was going to say, take out, the apple tree or the pear tree. Or
I don't know what caused it around my area. I mean, maybe my neighbor's trying to grow some type of apple family. He's got a whole hydroponic system going on over there. He may be, but it didn't affect the other cedars. So I think it may have even been something in the roots with that one, or
Mhm.
And you could have had something growing in the woods that is technically a host for it.
Yeah.
So it's able to hold over and cycle back and forth. A lot of times that's what the problem is.
Yeah,
We don't see a whole lot of it here.
another alternate host is the hawthorn, which is
Yeah,
kind of
there
a
you go.
common landscape plant.
Yeah. So you have to, before you start removing, don't think like, oh, well, I have a cedar tree. Now I need to find just the apple trees in my neighborhood. A lot of these diseases, you have to find all the different hosts. And sometimes it may be a weed. It may be something that just grows wild all over the woods. It may be something in your landscape in the front yard. So you really don't know until you look a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah.
So here, since you guys are the Florida Friendly Landscape agents, oh, not that one. I'm going to let you guys answer this question right here.
All right. The concerns about conflicting information about using rain barrel on edible plants.
You'll find conflicting information between Bill and I too. He says use it with caution, and I'm like, I don't know if I would even use it.
Don't use it at all. Well, you're more conservative than Bill then.
Yes, I am, because it's coming off of your roof, and lots of things poop on your roof.
Yeah,
So,
well, there's the two concerns. One is the pathogens from the things pooping on your roof. And then the other is possible chemicals from your roof. Do you have an old roof? Are you using one of those, anti-moss strips? Is it zinc? Anti-moss strips? That could leach and kind of contaminate your water.
yeah, see, I mostly encourage it for landscape plants. It's proven safe for that. I think University of Washington or something did studies on it, how safe it is for landscape plants, which it never occurred to me that it wouldn't be. But edibles, I would say, at your own risk, basically.
Right. And the concern with, animals, birds poop on your roof, those end up in the rainwater, and then you go and water your fresh lettuce leaf and you don't wash it and eat it for dinner, then that would be a direct, pathogen pathway to you. But, other edibles, like if you have a fruit tree, like an avocado tree, and you just use the rainwater at the base of the tree,
Right.
that to me is relatively safe. But I think the conflicting information comes from, there's a lot of details, like, all right, if you have, these types of roof materials that are old and may leach chemicals, don't use it, whereas if you have a new roof and you're using it on not touching any edible parts of the plant at all, you should be relatively safe. But we like to be conservative so that we don't get in trouble legally with our advice. So
Yeah.
we'll advise people, don't use it at all, and then you don't have to know what type of roof and what type of anti-moss if you have one, and if a bird pooped on your roof. But it can be used as an emergency, water supply, to kill the pathogens. You can use a bleach and put, like 2 tablespoons of bleach in for 24 hours. And then if you needed to use it, that would kill the pathogens, that wouldn't kill the chemicals.
Right.
So it's a very complicated answer. So the easy answer is no, don't use it at all. If you want to take the risk and use caution, and then don't let the water come in contact with the edible plant parts for the pathogen issue, and don't use old contaminated roofing materials that might be leaching chemicals, for the chemical part of it.
That's basic. Yeah, I mean, a fruit tree or something, yeah, it's probably not going to make it up into the edible part. But a vegetable garden, that's just a little close, I think, for comfort. But I've had other people tell me in my classes, well, I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
kind of like a use at your own risk kind of thing. So
Depends.
the other use we have found for it, you reminded me, we strongly discourage, it's not drinking water. I work at the water department. I have to tell you, that's not drinking water.
Yeah, no,
But
no.
it is great if you're out of electricity due to storms, and you're like me, who's on a septic. You know, you got 50. We have 55 gallons right there that can help flush your toilet.
Yeah, flush your toilet with it.
Mm-hmm. So, Bill, what do you have to say about that?
No, I totally agree with you guys. When it comes to watering or irrigating any kind of edibles with it, it depends on the plant and it depends on how you're applying it. You could, if you're using like a watering can, water a tree or corn or something like that with it. But if you have it hooked up to irrigation and you're spraying lettuce or radishes or broccoli or cabbage, that is not a very good idea. Mm-hmm. So you don't, and we can't say for sure what any rain barrel's water is contaminated with. You would obviously have to get it tested that day if you want to find out for sure what kind of pathogens or chemicals. One person's rain barrel may be reasonably clean water. Somebody else's rain barrel may be very, very nasty water. Obviously, and I know that you recommend this, Lily, cleaning it out at least once a year. You need to dump it out and clean it and bleach it. You need to protect it from worms getting into it or mosquitoes or any other kind of living things. I've seen some things brought into the office that came from rain barrels that were a little nasty that people wanted identified. So it really runs the range as far as just how clean that water is or how dirty that water is.
And we're all in the habit now of washing our hands all the time anyway. But when you're outside and if you're handling your rain barrel and your rain barrel water, be very careful not to touch your eyes, and right after you've handled it or any part of your face. And of course, wash your hands very well when you come in. And in my rain barrel workshop at the end, I have this. We have the history there is the person who used to have my job. I used to be a secretary at Extension. So I took a picture of him pretending to drink rain barrel water. So that was coming, like out of the downspout. So I use that in my workshop and I explain, this is John. He used to have my job, but we haven't seen him since he drank that rain barrel water. So, which is not quite true, but it kind of gets the word home. That's not potable water at all. So
yes, it's not safe to drink.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely
So
not.
I think we got like one more question here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. And Deborah Sue asks, any advice for the white mold-like growth on apple trees and prevention as natural as possible?
Deborah Sue, do you live by Facebook user? Maybe this is
Well, my best advice for apple trees is they don't grow well in Central Florida. I know some people do very well with them, but most people either get no fruit, very few fruit, really tiny fruit, like the size of a crab apple. And apple trees are very susceptible to a range of different foliar fungi during the summer. And especially a year like this, with the heat, humidity, all the rainfall, the leaves probably have several different diseases on them right now. The only thing that's going to work well on that from preventing those diseases is a commercial fungicide. There is no magic concoction or thing out of your kitchen that's going to really fix a problem like that.
And the apples we try to grow here are, the Annas and all that, the Israeli apples.
Yeah.
Just think of that. I mean, Israel is a desert. So, the more humid and water we have, probably the more trouble you're going to have. So.
And people can be successful with them up in the Panhandle, up in North Florida. It's just here, I know in Hernando County, and I would think also in Orange County, you probably don't see people successfully growing nice apples very often, right?
Yeah, I've never tasted a good Florida apple in Orlando. We do have success growing peaches. Some people can grow the Florida peaches down here.
Yeah, there's peach varieties that do well here. Plums. I used to have a couple of plum trees, and not every year, but some years, oh my gosh, I got tons of plums off them. They did really, really well. And it's something you don't hear about very often, is growing plums in Florida. So you want to get some University of Florida information on specific to where you live in the state before you start going out buying fruit trees, because it may be something that just does not do very well right where you live.
Yeah.
And what I've seen with peach trees in our area is, yeah, they'll grow, but you're going to get about a decade out of them. And then they're going to give up and not, have all sorts of problems. So,
Well, job security, you can replant them every 10 years.
there we go. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, they tend to be short lived. Being a plant growing in Central Florida is kind of a tough job.
Mhm.
So peaches don't last very long. I know pecans don't last very long in Central Florida. You need to go a little bit further north.
Mhm.
Gainesville, oh my gosh, people grow pecans up there. You can buy them by the side of the road, but here we're just a little bit too far south. So
I think in North Florida, Bill, they actually grow pecans. You got to get it right.
pecans. I like them, however you want to pronounce them.
I say pecan.
Yeah.
So let me show my little ticker here and tell everybody, if you want to know what kind of classes we have coming up here with Hernando County Extension, if you just go to hernandoextension.com, that is a freestanding website and has a whole list of all the classes that I have coming up, Lily has coming up, all the people in our office, all the classes they're doing. Everything is right there in one place for you to look at. All the information you need, whether it's going to be on Zoom or Facebook Live, or exactly how to log on, is right there. Then you can go ahead and put it on your calendar and be sure to tune in so you don't miss anything. If you have any more questions, you can contact our office. There's our phone number. Like I said, if you call, there's a 98% chance that Teresa is going to answer, and she is more than happy to take care of your questions. If it's a really hard one, she'll pass it on to the correct person to get that answered. And let me throw my email up here also. See, I have a nice short email. It's easy to remember, not too many letters. So if you have any other questions, just go ahead and shoot me an email. And I want to make a plug for this coming Tuesday. We're going to have a class here on our Facebook page, once again, on 20 easy to grow wildflowers with our master gardener, Rita Grant. And we're going to be right here on the same platform. It's going to kind of look the same. That's this coming Tuesday, September 22nd at 10 a.m. So if you go to that page, hernandoextension.com, all the details you need are all right there for this class.
Yeah, and it's wildflower planting season, for the seeds, plant them in October.
Oh,
It is perfect timing for that.
Yeah.
So
Lily, what do you have coming up that you want to give a plug for?
Well, the next day, Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I have, so you're at the nursery. Basically, what do you do when you're at the nursery? The big box store or other type of nurseries, that's where it all begins and where you make the right choices. So we'll cover what to look for when you're at the nursery, hazards, what you should avoid, and just kind of tips like that. So again, it's one I haven't done before, so I'll be making it from scratch. So I'm not sure what's going to be there. We'll find out on Wednesday.
Well, aren't you just supposed to buy the prettiest plant and put it wherever in your yard and hope for the best?
Okay, Bill, maybe you should attend my class on Wednesday.
Okay. I'll go in there and I'll start asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
How's that? Tia, what do you have coming up?
Well, I have a Florida-friendly landscaping class. So if you want to learn the 9 principles about Florida-friendly landscaping, that will be coming up soon in November. Also, I'm teaching a basic irrigation 101 class for, dummies for irrigation, how to get started, how to set up systems, how to check your sprinklers. And then we will be having a rain barrel class and a composting class with our partners. And so eligible residents can receive a free rain barrel or compost bin.
Okay, great. So I guess if you live in Orange County, if you just go to the University of Florida IFAS Extension Orange County, either Facebook page or website, you can get all that information.
Yeah, I send most people to the Facebook site, Garden Florida, or you can also Google Orange County Extension and look us up on there.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the way that we're doing classes now is no matter where you live, you can still tune in to see Tia's class on irrigation. Or if you live in Orange County, you can still tune in to see Lily's class on something, because we're doing it all virtually. So,
and you said you have 1.3 million people in Orange County.
That's our population.
We have 180,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it could be more. Getting more every day. I live in the last frontier of the county, of the northwestern part of the county, but houses are coming up all around me all the time. So
yeah, and it's important for us to help the homeowners and residents to be making these decisions, like when they go to the store, what do they buy? And I know, oh, that's going to die next week. Oh, this can survive Florida.
Yes, yes. And this is actually an invasive exotic, or this is, this says it's a butterfly plant, but does it have systemic pesticides built into it? That kind of thing to look for.
Yeah, and looking for the deals, like buying those pentas in the little 9-pack instead of like the big one for $8.
Yeah, cool. And I tell people, I know we are all attracted to that cart with the $2 plants on it, but we have to abstain from bringing anything bad home to our other babies that we have at home in the yard. So.
Yeah, good tips.
Okay, well, and that's what we're here for, is to answer all those kind of questions. So let's go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you very much, everybody who joined us. I see we still have quite a few people on. We got a whole bunch of likes, and we got a lot of questions, which is great. Now, we will be back here again next Thursday, same time, same place, back here on Facebook or also on YouTube Live. So I'll go ahead and set up next week's session a little bit later on today. And please feel free to join back in next week. Bring your pictures, bring your comments, bring your questions. Lily, I think it may just be you and I next week.
Okay.
Okay, but I'll just give you all the hard questions and I'll take the easy ones. How's that?
Okay, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay. And the nice thing is, even if we don't know the answers, we'll find out for you. We'll ask somebody who's a specialist in the area.
Well, that's what I love about extension people and master gardeners and that whole group of people, because you will never find anyone, if you ask them a question, who will just tell you, I don't know. The answer that you'll get is, I don't know. I got to find that out. So,
Okay, Tia, once again, thank you very much. It was really great having you on here. We're going to have you come back again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good.
So we'll put you back in the schedule. And other than that, everybody, thanks once again. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.